The CEO's girlfriend never saw it coming. She just spent the night at her male assistant's house with our daughter. So I asked the system to exit the story mode. But when she came home, thrilled and unsuspecting, she discovered I was already gone. Our daughter cried until her eyes were swollen, missing her daddy. My wife called me all night long, but the only response she got was that automated voice. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. That night, mother and daughter collapsed on the sofa, sobbing until dawn. System, I want to go home now. I spoke to the system in my mind. The system immediately replied, confirmed. Host is initiating exit protocol. In 2 weeks, you'll be able to leave this world. The system was usually razor sharp, but this time it paused for a few seconds. Then asked with a hint of confusion, Hope, you have a wife who loves you and a devoted daughter here. Isn't this your home? They're your family. Hearing the word family, my gaze slowly drifted to the TV screen. At that moment, a live broadcast showed Lennox Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Corporation, stepping off a plane with her daughter Summer Whitmore. Lennox was carrying Summer in her arms, striding forward with confident, powerful steps. A reporter rushed up, Ms. Whitmore, we heard you just finished your conference in Paris yesterday. Flying through the night to get back so urgently. Is there something important happening? Lennox, always stoic in public, turned toward the camera and broke into an impossibly tender smile. Today is my husband's birthday. Of course my daughter and I need to celebrate with him. Little Summer beside her held up the shopping bag in her hands. Daddy, Mommy and I picked out the perfect birthday present for you. We're almost home. The reporter tried to ask more questions, but Lennox said her time was limited and wouldn't answer further, leaving behind for the camera only her retreating figure hurrying away. The reporter sighed with admiration. Ms. Whitmore's love for her husband hasn't faded one bit. More than 10 years together and she still loves him like day one. Ms. Whitmore is truly the perfect wife. Even her daughter Summer is just like her mother, a mirror image. With a wife and daughter like that, I think Mr. Grant must be incredibly happy. I laughed bitterly and turned off the TV, happy. 2 weeks ago, I would have answered yes without hesitation. But now, I couldn't bring myself to say those words anymore. No one knew that I didn't actually belong in this world. 8 years ago, the system brought me here. My first mission, save young Lennox Whitmore. Back then, she just lost both her parents. When I first met her, she was a little girl with severe autism who refused to speak to anyone. It took me an entire year to help her slowly emerge from that darkness, until finally, she became the ice-cold CEO of Whitmore Corporation we know today. The moment I watched her take control of the Whitmore family shares, right then and there, my mission was complete. But when the system asked if I wanted to leave, I hesitated, because all I could see was Lennox, clinging to me desperately, on her knees begging me not to go. I couldn't bear to imagine what would happen if Lennox, who'd already lost her parents, lost me too, the person she loved more than anything. What would become of her? So I decided to stay in this world, to keep living alongside her. At our wedding, I told Lennox with complete sincerity, if she ever betrayed me, I would vanish from her life forever. I still remember how Lennox gripped my hand that day and made me a solemn vow that I would never have to wait for that day to come, that her love for me would last forever. After the wedding, just as she'd promised, her love nearly drowned me in its intensity. Every anniversary, big or small, she'd drop everything to be with me. At business trips or events, if strange men approached her, she'd kick them to the curb without a shred of politeness. The day Lennox gave birth to our daughter, I was rushing to the hospital when I got into a car accident and ended up in the ICU. She didn't care about her own weakened body. She knelt outside the operating room all night, praying to God to bring me back safely. After my surgery ended, she dragged her numb, senseless legs, stumbling to my bedside, cradling my pale face in her hands as tears streamed down. Aaron, thank God you're safe. If anything had happened to you, I couldn't go on living. When it came time to name our daughter, she chose the name Summer without a moment's hesitation. She said it meant that I was the only one in her heart. And because Summer grew up so close to me, she became especially attached to her daddy. Every morning before leaving the house, she'd plant a kiss on my cheek. The first thing she'd do after school was run around looking for her daddy. That's why I'd always believed I would be happy in this world forever. Two bad promises fade like wind, lost somewhere in the passage of time without warning. The mother and daughter who once loved me so deeply had built a new home with that male assistant. A brand new life. They'd snuck behind my back countless times to be with him at night. My wife of 5 years could nestle into Beckett Thorne's arms, calling him honey with intimate ease. The daughter I raised with my own hands could curl up in Beckett Thorne's embrace, sweetly calling him Daddy Beck. Hell, just yesterday, they weren't even flying to Paris for a conference. They went to Switzerland with Beckett Thorne to go snowmobiling on the glaciers. The wedding vow had become a bitter reality. The moment I discovered the truth, I knew I had to leave this world. Leave this mother-daughter duo who lied without blinking an eye. I stared at the cake on the table, slowly melting away, muttering to myself, they're not my family anymore. I have to get away from them. The words had barely left my lips when two female voices rang out in unison, who wants to leave? I jerked my head up, startled, to find Lennox and Summer standing in the doorway. Summer jumped down from Lennox's arms and ran straight into mine with light, quick steps. Daddy, who were you just talking about leaving? My heart stuttered. Just a friend. His marriage fell apart. He's leaving his wife and daughter. Summer pressed both her little hands against my cheeks and gave me a big, forceful kiss. Daddy's friend is so sad. Good thing Mommy and I will love you forever. Lennox set down her luggage too, walking over to lean against me. Her voice as gentle as always. She's right, you know. Aaron will be happy together forever. I said nothing, just nodded silently, my hair falling forward to hide the bitterness in my eyes. Forever, there was no forever for us anymore. Summer spotted the cake on the table and eagerly held up her shopping bag. Daddy, this is the gift Mommy and I picked out so carefully for you. Lennox pulled the gift box from the bag and opened it. An expensive Loris watch gleamed inside. Her voice carried a hint of guilt. Aaron, work in Paris was so hectic. That's why we got back a little late. Please don't be mad at us, okay? As she spoke, she took out the watch, ready to fasten it on my wrist. The instant it came close, a thick, woody cologne smell hit me square in the face. And I absolutely hated that scent. My stomach churned violently. I couldn't help but shove them both away before bolting to the bathroom. Here's the thing. Lennox had always been hypersensitive about my health. Even a single sneeze from me and she'd act like we were under attack. So the moment she saw this, she frantically called a doctor in the middle of the night. I grabbed her hand, my reddened eyes staring at her unblinking. I'm fine. I was just thinking about my friend's wife and daughter. How disgusting it is that they deceive him like that. Lennox, if you ever stopped loving me, I would absolutely. That could never happen. Before I could finish, Lennox cut me off on the spot. The next second she threw herself into my arms, as if she wanted to melt into my body, never to be separated again. Aaron, don't you understand how much I love you? You're the only man I'll ever love in this lifetime. I'll never let you leave me. Summer clenched her small pink fists too, her expression deadly serious. Don't worry, Daddy. Mommy and I would never hurt you. I'll help you keep an eye on Mommy too. I'll always be on your side, Daddy. That made Lennox laugh. Is that really what you think of Mommy? Summer shot her a fierce look. I love Daddy the most. I want to protect him. Watching the two of them banter back and forth, there wasn't even a trace of a smile on my face. I just felt like a sharp blade was tearing my heart into jagged pieces. Lennox said she loved me, but she was sneaking around with another man. Summer said she wanted to protect me, but she was helping Lennox cover it up, lying to me. I couldn't tell anymore which of their words were real and which were fake. Early the next morning, Lennox made me breakfast with her own hands, just like always, her eyes overflowing with affection as she said it before me. After breakfast, let's all go skiing together. We came home late yesterday, so today we're making it up to you with a proper birthday celebration. Summer poured me a glass of lemonade, tugging on my arm and whining, "Come on, Daddy, please. Skiing is so much fun." I'd never been interested in skiing. But just during breakfast, the two of them had already packed all my gear and loaded it into the car. When we arrived at the ski resort, I finally understood why they'd insisted so adamantly on coming here. The moment I got out of the car, I noticed not far away, Beckett Thorne was standing at the resort entrance, scanning the crowd. When he saw Lennox and Summer stepping out of the car together, Beckett's eyes instantly lit up. He hurried over quickly, with completely natural ease, unwrapping his own scarf and draping it around Summer's neck, then handing Lennox an insulated thermos. I watched every single one of his movements in silence. Smooth as water flowing, effortless as clouds drifting. Summer was still young, but she never liked being touched by anyone outside the Whitmore family. As for Lennox, ever since someone spiked her drink 4 years ago, she never accepted beverages from any man except me. Yet now she just coughed awkwardly, forcing herself to maintain a natural demeanor. "Aaron, this is my assistant Beckett Thorne. He arranged this entire ski trip for us. It's more convenient having him along, so I invited him to join us." Summer chimed in eagerly, "That's right. Daddy, we just get to have fun. Isn't that so much easier?" I nodded without expression. Was it really about convenience? Or did they just want to be near Beckett all the time? I didn't have the energy anymore to investigate what was really going through their minds. I stood there in a daze for the longest time, before Beckett finally acted like he just noticed me. Extending his hand earnestly, "Mr. Grant, don't worry. I would never intrude on your family." Unfortunately, my eyes inadvertently caught sight of his wrist. "What's that you're wearing?" He smiled as he rolled up his sleeve to reveal it. A watch encrusted with sapphire diamonds. His face glowing with happiness as he answered, "This was a gift from someone special. Over the past 8 years, Lennox had given me countless different watches, so it wasn't hard for me to recognize that Beckett's watch and the one she'd given me last night were from the same collection." I curved my lips in a mocking smile. "Looks like your special someone really knows how to show their love." Lennox and Summer had taken the watch collection and split it in two, giving me one half and handing the other half to Beckett Thorne, as if to say their hearts could be divided in half too. Beckett's smile reached his eyes. "They do. They always say they love me most, always treating me like a child they adore. Probably afraid I'd discover something." Throughout the journey, mother and daughter fussed over me constantly. I coughed just once, and Lennox immediately pulled off her own coat with concern, draping it over my shoulders, then thoughtfully poured a cup of hot water, bringing it right to my lips. Summer also unwrapped her scarf, making a big show of wrapping it around me, like a miniature adult, warning me I absolutely had to take care of my health. But I didn't want to touch anything that carried that cologne, so I simply said I wanted to go back to the hotel and rest, and started to leave. Lennox and Summer exchanged a long look, before finally agreeing to return to the hotel with me. That evening, Lennox received a phone call. She quickly hit the mute button, seeing I still hadn't moved on the bed. She breathed a sigh of relief. Beckett Thorne's name flashed continuously on her phone screen. Summer tugged at Lennox's skirt, lowering her voice, "Mommy, I want to see Beck." At that, Lennox immediately signaled for silence. Mother and daughter exchanged a glance, then snuck quietly out of the room. The moment the door clicked shut, I opened my eyes, threw on my coat, and followed behind them. They walked quickly, finally stopping in front of Beckett Thorne's room. The door had barely opened when Beckett couldn't help but pull Lennox into his arms, holding her tight against his chest. "Lennox, you finally came. I don't dare hope I could be like your husband, having you by my side 24 hours a day. I just need you and Summer to spare me half an hour each day, that's enough." As he spoke, Beckett stared at her, with eyes brimming with emotion. Lennox had never been able to resist those tearful eyes of his. Her heart instantly melted. She immediately leaned in and kissed the corner of his mouth tenderly. "Half an hour isn't nearly enough. Tonight Summer and I are staying here. We'll be with you all night long." Summer chimed in too. "Beck, Daddy's asleep." So Mommy and I rushed right over. We want to be with you forever too. Beckett was deeply moved. But as if remembering something, his expression fell. Actually, I was pretty cold today too. But you two only had eyes for Aaron. The scarf and thermos I prepared for you both. Summer was afraid Beckett would be sad. She quickly stepped forward and grabbed his hand. Beck, don't be sad. It's Mommy's and my fault. Let me warm your hands. My hands are even warmer than any scarf. Lennox affectionately pinched the little girl's cheek. You jealous little thing. Getting worked up over nothing. I knew you didn't get to ski in Switzerland. So I deliberately chose the best place in the country for you. Hearing that, Beckett leaned down and quickly kissed the corner of her mouth. Thank you, Ms. Whitmore. Lennox's gaze instantly deepened, fixed intently on Beckett's thin lips. Right there on the spot, they began kissing passionately. Summer quickly covered her eyes. I don't want to be a third wheel. It took a full half-minute before Lennox finally pulled away. Beckett's face was flushed scarlet. He reached out to ruffle Summer's hair. Still watching. At that, Lennox leaned in and kissed him once more. What's there to be afraid of? She's already seen everything. Then she leaned against Beckett's chest, taking Summer's hand as they walked into the room and closed it. From my spot around the corner, tears were already streaming down my face. Even though I'd known about their betrayal beforehand, actually witnessing it, I still felt pain that cut straight to the bone. Every single word they spoke became sharp blades stabbing through my heart. The so-called birthday celebration for me was really just to make up for the regret that Beckett felt about missing out. I braced one hand against the wall, clutching my chest. The words Lennox and Summer spoke last night still echoed in my ears. They'd never let me leave. But Lennox, Summer, I'd already decided I had to leave you both. When I woke up the next morning, Lennox and Summer happened to be walking in, one after the other carrying breakfast. Seeing I was awake, Lennox quickly set the breakfast before me. Summer and I wanted you to sleep in a bit longer, so we got up early to buy breakfast. Summer kicked her little legs as she climbed onto the bed, leaning against my shoulder. I only left you for a little while, and I already missed you so much, Daddy. Feeling the warmth in my chest, a self-mocking smile appeared in my eyes. They'd clearly been gone all night. They'd clearly just returned from Beckett Thorne's bed. Yet they had the audacity to claim they'd gone to buy breakfast. How had I never noticed before? How talented they were at acting. After breakfast, the two of them rushed to drag me to the ski resort. Beckett Thorne had already changed into his ski gear, standing in the courtyard waiting for us. But I had zero interest in skiing anymore. Lennox looked at me with concern, her voice tinged with probing. What's been going on with you these past 2 days? Did Summer or I do something to upset you? I shook my head. No. It's just my friend's situation. It's been affecting my mood lately. Only then did Lennox breathe a sigh of relief, gently kissing my forehead. Aaron, don't worry. That will never happen to us. If you really don't want to ski. Then well before she could finish, Beckett's hesitant voice rang out, Ms. Whitmore. Seeing the longing in his eyes, Lennox didn't want to disappoint him. The words on her lips immediately changed direction. Why don't you wait here for us like a good boy? Summer, my assistant, and I will do a few runs and come right back. Summer said nothing, but with just one glance, I could see her hand secretly gripping the hem of Beckett Thorne's jacket. The little girl was probably too eager to enjoy their little world of 3. By now, they weren't even worried anymore that I might discover what they were doing. I nodded silently. Lennox carefully instructed the hotel staff to take good care of me. She even carefully put gloves on my hands. Aaron, it's freezing out here. I'm worried you'll catch cold. If you feel sick at all, call me immediately, okay? Summer also played the little adult, checking my jacket zipper thoroughly. I don't want to see Daddy get sick either. Beckett stood at a distance, watching my warm family scene, unable to hold back the tears welling in his eyes. Sir, Ms. Whitmore and your daughter really are so good to you. At that, I just looked up with a light smile. I think your family loves you even more. After all, Lennox and Summer can keep both you and me in the dark, quietly building a whole new family on the side. That's proof enough they've never cared about my feelings. All they think about is finding ways to be with Beckett Thorne. I'd barely finished speaking, when suddenly a thunderous roar echoed from the distance. The ground beneath my feet began shaking violently. I was about to ask what was happening, when I looked up and saw a massive wall of snow, barreling straight toward us. Tourists around us scattered in panic. The scene descended into chaos. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms tightly around Lennox's waist. But in the very next second, I watched as Lennox pried my hands away and ran straight toward Beckett Thorne. Summer, who'd been standing beside me, also ran in that same direction. I heard a deafening crash as thick snow came crashing down on top of me. Right before I lost consciousness, I saw Lennox, the woman who'd said she loved me, and Summer, the girl who'd promised to protect me, nestled in the arms of another man. When I woke up, a week had already passed. The nurse saw me regain consciousness and immediately notified the doctor, who was on lunch break, to come examine me. "Mr. Grant, you're finally awake. Ms. Whitmore and your daughter called in practically every top doctor in the city. Ms. Whitmore even donated $100 million to charity, hoping to earn good karma. So you wake up soon. They'll be so happy to know you're awake." Before she'd even finished speaking, Lennox and Summer pushed through the door. Seeing I was awake, they both immediately rushed over and embraced me tightly, their eyes filled with anguish. "You're finally awake. Do you have any idea how worried I've been this entire week?" Summer's eyes were red-rimmed. Her voice choked with emotion. "Dad, I was so scared you'd never wake up. People always said Ms. Whitmore was a CEO, cold and emotionless." But in that moment, I felt several hot tears fall onto the palm of my hand. Tears were about to spill from Summer's eyes too. However, the scene before me stirred nothing inside. I only felt a wave of bitter irony rising. In that moment of real danger, the person they instinctively ran to protect was Beckett Thorne. If I said it didn't hurt, I'd be lying to myself and everyone else. I had given Lennox my whole heart, loved her with everything I had. And as for Summer, I cared for and raised her with my own hands since she was born. I saw that little girl as my own flesh and blood. Yet Beckett Thorne had only been around for a few months, and he'd easily stolen everything away, forcibly claiming the place that should have been mine. Seeing the look on my face, Lennox and Summer suddenly panicked, rushing to explain. The scene was so chaotic that day. In my panic, I couldn't tell who was who. So I accidentally ran to the wrong person. Summer chimed in, "Daddy, Mommy and I will never let you be in danger again. This time it was completely our fault." My body had only just woken up and was still incredibly weak. In that moment, I felt exhausted beyond measure. I didn't have the strength to expose their clumsy performance. Just 7 more days. 7 more days. And I'd be able to escape this world. Leave this masked mother-daughter duo behind forever. Over the following days, perhaps feeling guilty, Lennox and Summer stayed glued to my bedside constantly. During that time, Lennox's phone rang almost nonstop, but she never dared answer it. Until today. Her phone buzzed with a text message. Her expression flickered, her eyes tightening slightly. A few seconds later, with a hint of guilt, she spoke. "There's an emergency at the company. I need to handle it quickly." Summer immediately leaned toward the screen. The moment she saw the message, she looked alarmed. "Daddy, I have to go with Mommy to the office too." The way they both changed expression. What company business would ever require a child to come along? I was certain this involved Beckett Thorne. Seeing me nod, they both immediately rushed out of the room. I secretly climbed out of bed and followed behind them. At a corner in the hospital hall, I saw Beckett Thorne holding Lennox tightly in his arms, his eyes brimming with tears. Lennox looked uncomfortable, pulling his hands away, her voice carrying a note of warning. "What are you doing at the hospital? I already told you Aaron's health hasn't recovered yet. These past few days you need to stay home like a good boy. You can't appear in front of him." At that, Beckett only cried harder, throwing himself at her again, his arms gripping her waist tightly as his voice choked. "Do you know it's been 10 days since I've seen you both? We had an agreement. At least half an hour with me every single day." Seeing Beckett cry, Summer rushed to explain frantically. "Beck, Mommy and I miss you so much too. It's just that Daddy isn't better yet. We have to be with Daddy." "Mommy, quick, comfort Bex," feeling the dampness against her chest, and hearing her daughter's urging. Lennox's voice gradually softened. "Seeing you cry breaks my heart too. Can we stay with you for the next 2 days?" Only then did Beckett's tears turn to laughter. He leaned down and kissed her lips several times. Lennox wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back. The two of them kissed with deep longing, as if trying to make up for 10 days of missing each other. Summer saw this scene, and immediately covered her eyes, turning away. Her voice carrying a teasing note, "Mommy and Beck are being naughty again." I stood there like a wooden puppet, stumbling back to my hospital room, tears streaming down my face, repeating to myself over and over, "Just hold on a little longer. Just a few more days and I can leave this world. This will be the last time I cry over them." Perhaps because he'd been kept at arm's length for too long, Beckett began to feel insecure, and finally he tore off his mask to reveal his true fangs. The next morning when I woke up, the moment I opened my eyes, I saw Beckett had sent me a barrage of messages. "Aaron Grant, I know you've read these. So tell me, how does it feel watching your wife kiss another man goodbye? While your daughter stands by covering for us, pretty great, right? Lennox loves me the most. She says just seeing me cry gives her this special sense of satisfaction, especially every night before bed. As long as I shed a few tears, she'll do anything I ask. She even says she wishes she could be stuck to me for 24 hours straight. She's never treated you like that, has she? Even your daughter prefers having me around. She says being with me makes her feel comfortable and free. One time she thought I was asleep, and she even snuck and called me daddy. You really are a failure of a husband." Reading those taunting messages, I forced myself to suppress the churning emotions inside. Then I screenshotted everything and saved it. Just 3 more days until I leave this place. All of this would be my final gift for Lennox and Summer. That morning I requested to be discharged. The hospital immediately notified Lennox. Before long she called me, her voice full of guilt. "Work's been so crazy lately, I can't get away. I'll have the driver come pick you up. Let me take care of Summer. You just rest well at home, okay?" I knew perfectly well they were both busy with Beckett Thorne, so I just calmly responded with a simple acknowledgement. 3 days before escaping this world, I had the household staff sell all my personal belongings like trash. The housekeeper asked, confused, "Are we replacing everything?" I nodded, but they didn't know. It wasn't just the belongings. Even the master of this house would be replaced entirely 2 days before leaving this world. I opened the secret room that only Lennox, Summer, and I could access. Inside, the walls were covered, completely plastered with photos of us together, including pictures from when Summer was born. Every year we'd taken a family portrait. Over 10 years, the faces in those photos went from young to mature, from 2 people to 3. And now we'd be losing one. I took scissors and sat in that secret room from morning until night, cutting through each photograph, removing every part of me, leaving only Lennox and Summer. Then I pulled out the marriage certificate we'd kept in the safe for 5 years. When I opened it, I was surprised to find inside a poem Lennox had written at our wedding. "To May, you are my entire world. Because of you, my world is filled with light again. I will love you forever. I believe we'll grow old together, loving each other through every lifetime." I read every single word. The passionate declarations of love from that 22-year-old girl, written for me with such devotion. By the time I finished reading, I laughed silently, my eyes stinging. Finally, I placed that vow back down, stacking it with the marriage certificate in the center of the room. Then I lit them on fire. I stood there quietly watching, as every photograph and the marriage certificate turned to ash. On my final day before leaving this world, I took those cut-up photos, and all the recent messages Beckett had sent, and printed them out page by page. Photos of Lennox in a flimsy nightgown, her neck covered in kiss marks nestled against Beckett's chest. And Summer, too, leaning against Beckett with eyes full of happiness, listening to him tell bedtime stories. On their walks together, Lennox, Summer, and Beckett, all 3 of them, wearing matching animal ear headbands. taking photos together at the amusement park. I thought my heart would still ache. But facing these photographs, I only felt hollow like stagnant water. I took all the printed photos and stuffed them into a file folder. Then I slipped off my wedding ring and added it to the pile. The day I left this world, by pure coincidence, happened to be my and Lennox's 7th wedding anniversary. The mother-daughter duo who'd vanished for days suddenly returned early that morning. Lennox was even carrying a heart-shaped cake. Aaron, I've been so swamped with work, that's my fault. But today is our anniversary. Summer and I definitely won't go anywhere, we're staying with you all day. Summer also held up her small, soft fist in a pledge. Daddy, I'm your witness. Mommy's been working overtime at the office nonstop lately. I've been remembering my mission. Keeping a really good eye on Mommy for you. I looked at the two of them making their bold declarations, and quietly asked, aren't you tired? Running back and forth between me and Beckett. Having to play the devoted wife and obedient daughter in front of me, while pretending we're one happy family. Doesn't that exhaust you? They answered in unison. Not tired, Summer tugged at her hand, her eyes bright and sparkling as she looked at me. As long as it's something involving Daddy, I never feel tired. Lennox also pinched my cheek gently. No matter how busy work gets, no matter how tired I am, just seeing you, all the exhaustion melts away. Besides, today's our wedding anniversary. Every year we celebrate together. No matter how much work the company has, I have to come home to you. I just smiled without saying a word. Lennox set down the cake, then immediately disappeared into the kitchen, bustling around. She gave all the household staff the day off, planning to cook several of my favorite dishes herself for the celebration. Summer refused to be outdone, dragging over a small stool to start cutting fruit for juice. The two of them worked frantically all morning, until finally by noon the table was set. Lennox lit the number 7 candle, then took my hand, her eyes overflowing with love, practically spilling over. Aaron, all those years ago, if you hadn't been by my side. Summer clapped her hands excitedly. Oh, Mom and Dad are so romantic. But right at that moment, a phone ringtone suddenly shattered the warm atmosphere. I pulled my hand back, holding up the phone displaying Beckett Thorne's name, and handed it to her. Lennox insisted she wasn't answering anyone's calls today, even trying to force me to take it back. Seeing the name on the screen, she froze for a second, but finally answered it. Aaron, it's my assistant calling. The company must have an emergency, so I have to take this. With that, she stepped aside to answer. When she came back, unsurprisingly, it was the same familiar line. Aaron, I'm so sorry. Something urgent came up at the company, I have to handle it. Summer, even though she couldn't hear the phone conversation, knew for certain it was Beckett calling. So she jumped off the sofa and ran over to grab her arm. Daddy, I want to go too. I can help you keep an eye on Mommy, so she finishes work quickly and comes home to you soon. Watching the two of them barely able to hide their eagerness to leave, I just nodded silently. Go ahead, come home soon. At that, Lennox immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Summer leaned in. Mother and daughter each planted a kiss on my cheek. Be good and wait at home for us, okay? See you soon, Daddy. With that, they rushed off, completely oblivious to my cold indifference. They would never know. This was the last time the three of us would ever meet. I waited until outside the window. Lennox's car had completely disappeared from view. Then I grabbed the half-burned candle from the table and threw it into the trash along with the cake. Then I went into the bedroom to retrieve the file folder I'd prepared and left the house. 10 years ago, Lennox and I had purchased together a private sanatorium for vacations. Now the place had been abandoned, with only wild vines covering the entire building. I followed the path I remembered. Memories of Lennox came crashing over me like a tsunami. From her coldness when we first met, to when she gradually grew accustomed to my presence. And finally that night in the pouring rain, when she clung to me and refused to let go. My footsteps stopped beneath the large banyan tree in the back garden. The banyan that had been so lush 10 years ago still thrived with green leaves. I reached out to touch the trunk, where two names had faded almost beyond recognition. I could almost see that girl again. Her face still young, but her eyes filled with love and intensity. She'd said she would only love me in this lifetime. That she'd never let me leave her. That we would be together forever. Then she'd carefully carved both our names beneath the tree. Yet later her heart was torn in two. One half for me. One half for some company assistant. And that so-called forever couldn't even last 10 years. How could that 19-year-old girl have known that at 29 she would lose me forever? I used a rock to dig bit by bit, creating a small hole. Placed the file folder inside. Then carefully covered it with soil. After that I called Linux one final time. She answered almost immediately. Her tone as gentle as always. What is it? Is everything okay? I looked at the banyan tree before me and said calmly. Do you still remember the banyan at the sanatorium? Lennox laughed softly. Of course I remember. That year. That's where I confessed my feelings to you. Time flies so fast. It's been almost 10 years already. I laughed lightly too. Good that you remember. I've prepared a gift for you in summer. Buried under the banyan tree. Remember to come get it later. Lennox's voice carried excitement. Summer's already jumping up and down hearing this. We'll come as soon as we finish work. Tonight the three of us can look at it together at home. I didn't respond, just hung up. There would be no three of us anymore. Because I knew. Tonight they definitely wouldn't come home. And I would never return either. From now on, the Whitmore family would no longer have Aaron Grant. A familiar mechanical voice sounded in my ear. Host preparing to exit the program. Do you wish to confirm departure? Confirmed the moment I finished speaking. A blinding beam of light appeared before me. Forming a pathway. Wind whipped up from all directions. Making banyan leaves fall in cascades. Swirling through the air. I stepped forward without hesitation. Lennox Whitmore, Summer Whitmore. From this moment on, we'll never meet again. On the other side. The next day Lennox jolted awake from a nightmare. She shot up, gasping for breath, reflexively clutching the waist of the man beside her. Last night I had the most terrifying nightmare. I dreamed you wanted to leave me. I chased after you desperately from behind. But you never once looked back. Thank God it was just a dream. Thank God I opened my eyes and you're right here. Beckett Thorne was being held tightly by Lennox. At first feeling sweet inside. But hearing her call out that other name. His expression immediately hardened. Then he moved his hand up to her neck. His voice tinged with hurt. Lena. Last night it was me beside you. Lennox's usually gentle face suddenly froze. She bolted upright, pressing both hands hard against her temples. Why am I here? Last night I clearly remember saying summer and I had to go home. Beckett moved closer, leaning against her back. Did you forget? Last night after dinner, you let me carry you to the bedroom. Lennox shook her head violently. Only then did her mind begin to clear. And memories from last night came flooding back. Beckett had pulled her into the bedroom. And in a moment of impulse she'd gone along. Now she felt a pang of regret. Yesterday was their 5th wedding anniversary. How could she have been so foolish? Aaron was home alone. She didn't know how long he'd waited for them. She had to get home right away. Lennox yanked her hand from Beckett's grip, grabbing her clothes from the sofa, checking them carefully for any suspicious marks. Beckett bit his lip hard, a flash of jealousy sparking in his eyes. He reached out to pull Lennox back, his face showing that familiar vulnerable expression, looking at her with pitiful eyes. It's still early. He's probably not even awake yet. Sleep a little more, then go. But last night's nightmare kept replaying clearer and clearer in Lennox's mind. She could even vividly remember my resolute figure as I walked away, and the panic and pain she felt trying to chase after me. A vague sense of unease rose within her. She pushed Beckett's hand away, her eyes carrying a warning. Since when do I need your permission to go home and find my own husband? Beckett could only sit on the bed, watching Lennox with dissatisfaction, as she carried Summer from the next room and left. When she placed Summer in the back seat, the little girl groggily woke up. The first words out of her mouth were, choked with emotion, Mommy. Last night I dreamed Daddy didn't want me anymore. Daddy was holding another little kid. That kid called him Daddy too. I told them they couldn't call him that. But they said Daddy wasn't mine. That I couldn't call him that anymore. Those words made Lennox's heart, which had just begun to calm, immediately constrict. Why had both she and her daughter dreamed of me leaving? Impossible, absolutely impossible. It was only one night away from home. As long as she explained clearly to me, I would definitely understand. Lennox gently soothed her daughter. So, it was just a dream, sweetie. You're Daddy's daughter. How could Daddy not want you? When we get home, we'll apologize to Daddy properly. He'll definitely forgive us. At the same time, she slammed down on the gas pedal. The car shot forward like an arrow, tearing through the wind as it sped down the road. When passing a flower shop, Lennox suddenly hit the brakes hard. Summer, wait in the car for Mommy. I'm going to buy flowers for Daddy. With that, she walked into the shop. Lennox specifically requested my favorite flower, Lily of the Valley. The shop owner smiled warmly, pulling out a bunch of Lily of the Valley, meticulously wrapping it into a bouquet. These days, you rarely see a girl so thoughtful about giving flowers. Most just ask me to choose for them. You must really love your husband. Looking at those fresh blooms. In her mind, Lennox saw my face every time I received flowers. And the happy smile I wore then, Lennox's racing heart, finally settled down a bit. She smiled back, that's right. I love my husband very much. This bouquet is also to apologize to him. The shop owner handed over the wrapped bouquet, then shook her head meaningfully. Men, all they want is sincerity from their partner. As long as you haven't made an unforgivable mistake. As long as he still loves you. Even if it's just a wildflower from the roadside. He'll forgive you. Those words made Lennox's face visibly pale. She took the flowers, paid, as if wanting to escape from that place. Back in the car, she checked one more time. Her and Summer's outfits, confirming nothing looked suspicious. Only then did she feel reassured enough to start the car and leave. A drive that normally took 40 minutes. She cut down to 20. The moment she parked, she took Summer's hand in one, held the flowers in the other, and walked straight into the house. Opening the door, the mansion was still as quiet as ever. She glanced at her watch, it was still early. I was probably still asleep. She planned to gently place the flowers on the bedside table, so I'd be delighted when I woke up. She lowered her voice, Summer, let's put the flowers by the bed. Remember, don't wake Daddy. Summer nodded obediently. Mother and daughter tiptoed upstairs, pushing open the bedroom door. No one was in the bed. The blanket was folded flat and smooth, without a single wrinkle. Lennox walked over and lifted the blanket. All she felt was bone-chilling cold. Nothing like someone had slept there. Summer saw Daddy wasn't in the room, and anxiously tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mommy, where did Daddy go? Lennox, who'd been anxious the entire drive, now completely erupted. Too panicked to answer her daughter, she rushed downstairs to ask the household staff. Did anyone see the master go out today? The staff looked at each other. Then all shook their heads. Ma'am, we haven't seen the master since we arrived. That's right. At this hour, the master should still be sleeping. We didn't dare go upstairs and disturb him. No one had seen me. So perhaps I was still somewhere in the house. Perhaps I was angry and deliberately avoiding them. Lennox tried to reassure herself, then pulled out her phone to text me. Aaron, Summer and I are home now. Last night the company situation was really unavoidable. I'm sorry. I promise there won't be next time, okay? Let's go to Hawaii for a vacation. That way no one will bother us anymore. The three of us can make up for our anniversary. Aaron, please don't scare me like this. He sent message after message, but didn't receive a single response. Lennox couldn't hold back anymore, frantically calling me. But all she heard was that cold automated voice. We're sorry. The number you have dialed is temporarily unreachable. By now Summer could clearly sense it too. The unease in her heart growing more intense, seeing even the phone calls weren't going through. The little girl's voice trembled with tears. Mommy, where did Daddy go? Is Daddy really mad at us? Could it be last night's dream was real? A thought that had never occurred before rose uncontrollably in Lennox's mind. Aaron had truly left them. Impossible. Impossible, Daddy's just upset. All we have to do is apologize. Lennox tried desperately to suppress her panic, comforting her daughter, while frantically searching every room in the mansion, just to find any trace of me. But when she returned to the bedroom, she realized the belongings inside had significantly diminished. The closet that used to be packed full now only held a few of her outfits, hanging there alone and forlorn. Lennox's heart clenched in waves. Everything before her eyes was silently screaming that I had left this house they called home. She truly regretted it now. Why hadn't she forced herself to come back last night? Then Aaron wouldn't have left the house. Once she found him, she and Summer would apologize to him properly. With that thought, she hurried to pull up yesterday's security camera footage, wanting to see what time I'd left. Then she saw it clearly, the moment mother and daughter had just left the house. I threw the cake straight into the trash, then went upstairs to grab the file folder, and hurriedly left the mansion. In Lennox's mind, my phone call from yesterday suddenly flashed. The file folder, Aaron said he'd prepared a gift, buried under the banyan tree. There must be an address inside. Hoping they'd come find it. Hope rekindled in her eyes. Without another word, she scooped up her daughter and rushed straight to the garage. Summer, Mommy's taking you to find Daddy right now. Summer wiped away her tears and nodded hard. When I see Daddy, I'm going to hug him so tight and tell him I missed him so much. Lennox stroked her daughter's head. And Mommy will tell Aaron how terrified I am of losing him. The car flew like the wind toward the old sanatorium. Since I'd appeared 10 years ago, helping her recover to normal, she never returned to this place, though the sanatorium had been abandoned. Still, Lennox easily found those familiar memories. Seeing the rusted swing, she remembered my figure strolling through the garden. Back then she hadn't known that the boy before her would pull her life out of darkness and become the person she'd loved deeply for life. Seeing the rotted wooden bench, she remembered again since I'd appeared. The lonely figure on that bench had gradually become two people. Finally she carried Summer to the banyan tree from all those years ago, the place that witnessed our love. Summer had never been here before. Seeing the unfamiliar scenery, she asked with confusion, Mommy, aren't we supposed to be looking for Daddy? Lennox set her daughter down, one hand gently resting on the carving in the tree trunk. A tender smile on her face. This is where Daddy and Mommy first met. And Daddy left us a gift here. We're about to bring Daddy home. Summer cried out joyfully, Mommy. Then let's hurry and find it. Lennox followed what I'd said in that phone call, beginning to search around the banyan tree's base. But the ground was covered in fallen leaves, making it hard to see where I'd buried it, until she discovered a spot with signs of disturbed earth. She couldn't hide her excitement, calling Summer over. Mother and daughter rolled up their sleeves and dug frantically. Before long, they unearthed a crumpled file folder. Summer was so nervous she could barely speak. Mommy, open it. Let me see too. After a long day of running around, Lennox just wanted to know news of me immediately. So without waiting any longer, she opened the folder. But inside was only a ring and a stack of printed messages. Today Lennox held me and called me honey. Probably won't be long now before your title of Mr. Whitmore has to be handed over. Last night Lennox wrapped herself around me in the car again. That's never happened with you, has it? Today, your daughter even picked flowers for me herself. She said it was the first time she'd given anyone flowers. I honestly feel sorry for you. Every word, every sentence was Beckett Thorne's mocking, boastful tone. There were even photos too unbearable to look at. Between him and Lennox, an unprecedented terror flooded through her entire body. Lennox suddenly felt her heartbeat slow to a crawl. So Aaron had known everything about her and Beckett. Yet she'd been completely oblivious. Exactly how long had I known? She didn't have the strength left to think. Right now, she just wanted to find me as quickly as possible. Whether I wanted to hit her or scream at her. Even if I made her kneel and apologize, anything. As long as she could find me and bring me home. Lennox was nearly losing her mind, flipping through each photo in the folder, hoping to find some clue. But there was nothing. I hadn't even left a single extra hint. Just left her with a ring. This ring when we got married. We'd hired someone to design and craft it together. We'd sworn that no matter what happened, we'd never take it off. Yet now it lay there alone in the file folder. Lennox didn't dare think further. She was terrified of the conclusion. She never wanted to face. Summer, on the other hand, didn't understand any of it. The little girl only knew that her mother had clearly just been happy to find the folder, but now was drowning in something close to utter despair. Seeing this, the little girl panicked and threw herself at her mother. "Mommy, did something happen to Daddy?" The papers fell from her hands to the ground. Lennox closed her eyes, finally forcing out those cold words. Daddy probably doesn't want us anymore." Right at that moment, in her mind flashed the scene beneath this banyan tree years ago, when she'd confessed her feelings to me. "Aaron, please stay with me. I'll love you forever." The image shifted to the moment she proposed to me. "In that promise, Aaron Grant, you swear you'll only love me in this lifetime. You'll never betray me." Back then, the eyes of that 22-year-old version of me were full of faith. "Yes, we'll be together." The final image stopped at my birthday. And now Lennox finally realized. When I talked about that friend with a troubled marriage, with feelings falling apart, the deep hidden pain in my eyes, that friend was actually me. So Aaron had known about Beckett's existence all along. These past 2 weeks, my abnormal behavior had been revealing itself bit by bit in his mind. Aaron had been planning to leave all along, and I'd been completely clueless. Pain that pierced straight through her heart spread from her chest throughout her entire body. 22-year-old Lennox had only one man in her heart, me. She believed absolutely that for her entire life, she would never betray that person. Yet 29-year-old Lennox had personally shattered that vow. Exactly when had it started? She couldn't remember anymore. She only remembered after the first time something happened with Beckett. Her first thought was, Aaron is an orphan. He has no family. So in this world, the only people closest to him are me and our daughter. Besides the Whitmore family, he has nowhere else to go. With that thought, Lennox had gradually forgiven herself, sinking deeper into the mire. She never expected I could leave so decisively. Hearing Lennox's words, Summer suddenly burst into sobs. "Mommy, I want to see Daddy." But right now, she didn't have the strength to manage her daughter's emotions. Her gaze fell back to the stack of printed message screenshots on the ground. The panic and pain all transformed into a flame of rage burning in her chest. She clearly warned Beckett not to bring this matter before me. Yet he'd still dared to deliberately sabotage the relationship between me and Lennox. She gradually calmed down, gathering all the papers, returning home, leaving Summer with the servants, then rushing to Beckett's place. At that moment Beckett was still angry because this morning Lennox had left without a word. He'd smashed the belongings in his house to ruins. But when he saw me standing outside the door, his face immediately lit up with joy. Then he remembered the chaotic scene in the living room, his voice revealing obvious panic. Quickly searching for an excuse in his mind, "Lennox, why didn't you tell me you were coming?" Today Lennox didn't let him finish. One hand clamped around his throat. Her face flushed scarlet with fury, like a demon crawling up from hell. "Beckett Thorne, you deserve to die." She never imagined. This Beckett who always pretended to be weak and innocent, acting like he'd never compete with me, behind the scenes, had such a disgusting face. Survival instinct made him flail with both hands, repeatedly striking at Lennox's wrist. But I didn't let go, instead squeezing even tighter. Each word spat out with bone-deep hatred. "I warned you from the very beginning. What's between you and me could never let Aaron find out. Yet you dare to secretly tell him. You're just a toy I keep on the side. If you don't know your place, then don't blame me for being ruthless." With that, Lennox's face ice cold, she threw him to the ground, her entire body radiating cold, murderous intent. Beckett clutched his throat, coughing violently, gasping in huge gulps of air. He'd never seen her this angry before. Never seen eyes as terrifying as Lennox's in that moment. Just last night, the two of them had been intimate together. Yet today, she could look at the person who'd lain beside her like an enemy. He didn't need to guess, Lennox had discovered everything. Yet this homewrecker still gritted his teeth, refusing to admit he'd sent those taunting messages to me. Yes, those lines of text I'd received in the dead of night. Now he was crying and begging again, eyes full of desperation looking at Lennox. So that's what I am in your eyes. I only dared to secretly hope for just a little bit of you. Even 1/10,000th would be enough. I never dared dream of anything beyond my reach. And I would never say anything to your husband. He knew full well that whenever tears fell, Lennox would soften. But this time he miscalculated. Lennox's face remained terrifyingly dark. Even at this point he still dared to lie. Without hesitation, Lennox threw the printed photos from the folder I'd left straight into his face. Never dared, this is what you call never dared. The sharp paper edges sliced several bloody cuts across his face. But he didn't dare pay attention to them. When he read the contents on the papers clearly, he completely panicked. He never expected everything had fallen into Lennox's hands. He crawled forward, clinging to her pant leg. I was wrong, I said things I shouldn't have. But I did it all because I love you. I just wanted to be with you openly and legitimately. I didn't need to witness the scene to imagine Lennox's ice-cold expression in that moment. Openly and legitimately. Looks like you still don't understand your place. The person I love, the person I chose as my husband, is Aaron. And you're the one who pushed him away from me. Now you have to pay the price. Right after that, Lennox raised her foot to kick him, but was stopped by one sentence. But I did it all because I love you. I don't know how Lennox reacted, only that she'd made her final move. She stared at him intently, as if wanting to emphasize every word. I didn't need to think to know he was desperately trying to find himself an escape. His past, I'd investigated it. A child raised in violence, abandoned by his father, deserted by his mother. Since entering college, he'd sworn he had to climb to the top. 3 months ago, he became assistant to the CEO at Whitmore Corporation. The moment he first met Lennox, he'd identified his target. Though outwardly she was the model wife who loved her husband and child. In his eyes, rich people all had affairs. Once in bed, no one could resist temptation. And he'd actually succeeded. From a nobody assistant, he'd become the man lying beside my wife. Once he'd tasted luxury, his ambition exploded. He didn't want to stay hidden forever. He knew Lennox had a daughter. And children were easier to manipulate than adults. He'd gradually won the little girl over when I wasn't around. And I, the cuckolded fool, had no idea. The instant he learned I'd left, only one thought filled his mind. The opportunity had arrived. I'd once thought someone like him had nothing but an innocent face. But it turned out behind that smile was an entire shattered childhood. A violent father, a mother who'd run off with someone else. He'd grown up under beatings and the pitying stares of everyone. I could imagine how he'd endured such humiliation growing up. Beaten, despised, forgotten. Only when he entered college did he begin to see that life could be different, luxurious, respected. He swore he'd never let anyone trample him again. He had to become someone above everyone else, never having to bow his head to anyone's contemptuous gaze again. 3 months ago, he slipped into Whitmore Corporation as assistant to the CEO. The very first time he met Lennox, he'd identified his prey. No matter how many rumors he heard about her love for me, he didn't care. In his eyes, every wealthy person eventually softened. He believed the more devoted they appeared to their spouse, the more addictive forbidden fruit became. And then he'd actually succeeded. From a nobody, he climbed into my wife's bed. I don't know how long they'd been performing behind my back. But I knew clearly, after that night, I'd lost something I could never get back. After being pampered by Lennox, he began dreaming bigger. No longer wanting to stay in the shadows. He wanted status, wanted to be public. Wanted my entire family, including my daughter. He knew Lennox had a young daughter. A child easily softened, easily bought. Step by step he'd moved closer, worming his way into the little girl's life. And I remained completely blind, completely trusting. Every time I was busy, it was his chance to slip into the house. He did everything so skillfully that I never once suspected. And in the end, he'd taken everything, even the heart that had once been mine. He'd sat watching cartoons with my daughter. pretending to be interested, laughing and joking like a real father. Just by acting concerned. Buying a few novel snacks. The little girl immediately warmed to him. My position. Could he really steal it so easily? I'd once thought, if I found out about him and Lennox, I'd make a scene. He'd thought so too. That I'd scream lose control. So that Lennox, exhausted, would choose him instead. But he never expected I would just leave. Decisively, almost cruelly. I didn't need to fight. I chose to withdraw, taking my last shred of dignity with me. He'd even dared to touch Lennox's stomach, telling her in a gentle, delusional voice, "We haven't done anything wrong. We just haven't had time for a checkup yet." He was even fantasizing that my daughter would accept him, accept having a little brother, created by him. The more he spoke, the more ridiculous I found it. Lennox stood there, her face ice cold. Enough. One sharp word cut off his delusion. Lennox moved closer, step by step. My husband can only be Aaron. My daughter will have no little brother. That voice, those eyes, had become that way because of me. He still wouldn't let go. Crying, trembling, begging. Aaron's gone, he won't come back. Those words, like a blade stabbing deep into Lennox's heart. She landed a slap straight across his face. Shut up. Aaron is just angry. He'll come back to me. The man still clung on. Don't I matter to you at all? What about the baby inside you? How can you bear to treat me like this? I knew clearly. Lennox wouldn't soften. She grabbed his throat, one hand trembling with rage. A baby? You think I'd have your child? That year when Aaron lay in the ICU, I swore, for the rest of my life, I'd never let him get hurt again. That afternoon I had my tubes tied. In this lifetime I only have one daughter, Summer. Hearing that made my heart ache and warm at once. The man's eyes went wide. He'd thought their intimacy had given him an opportunity. But no, Lennox from beginning to end had never intended to give him a place to stand. He'd just been deluding himself too deeply. Lennox finally released her grip. Her gaze like ice as she looked down at him. Starting today you're fired. You'd better leave this city. Those words completely ended all entanglements. He still tried to cling on. But my Aaron, even though I wasn't there, was still the only person Lennox loved. Had never intended to give him a place to stand. He'd just been deluding himself too deeply. Lennox finally released her grip. Her gaze like ice as she looked down at him. Starting today you're fired. You'd better leave this city. Those words completely ended all entanglements. He still tried to cling on. But my Aaron, even though I wasn't there, was still the only person Lennox loved. He immediately confessed to Lennox that he'd just been looking for an excuse to stay near her. He said he knew he was wrong, begging her not to throw him out. But I knew that every time Lennox saw him, she'd remember that I'd left. If it weren't for him crossing the line, telling me everything on his own, I wouldn't have had to leave her and our daughter. She was so furious, she said, if he didn't leave, she'd call people to throw him out. Because of him, I'd left the place that had once been my home. Lennox's voice carried a rare cruelty. I'm certain he understood that too. He could never change her decision. And then he began giving up, going mad. He staggered to his feet, pointing at Lennox and screaming with mockery. Lennox, do you really think after knowing everything between us, he'll still come back? Pure love. Back then, didn't I just pretend to be forced to drink, then fall into your arms and you took the bait? And last night I didn't beg you to keep me there. It was you who couldn't control yourself, clinging desperately to me. The one who drove Aaron Grant away wasn't me. It was you. He wasn't done yet. He even dragged my daughter into his blame. You too drove Aaron Grant away with your own hands. Every word he spoke was like tearing Lennox's heart apart, making it impossible for her to keep lying to herself. She was the one who couldn't control herself and betrayed me. Who took our daughter on trips with that man behind my back. Who didn't prioritize saving me during the avalanche. Who left me alone in an empty house even on our anniversary. I wondered over these past 2 weeks, how desperate had Aaron Grant become? On the drive home, Lennox mobilized every connection she had, just to find any trace of me. But the only response was silence. No one knew where I was. According to surveillance data, I'd never left the city. And the last place I'd gone was that old sanatorium. But it had been abandoned for years. Not a single camera still worked. I'd walked in carrying that file folder, then vanished without a trace. Late at night, Lennox returned home looking exhausted. Summer was still waiting on the sofa, the little girl anxiously watching the door. Hearing it open, she ran over. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" Seeing her daughter's hopeful eyes, she could only shake her head. Summer's eyes immediately dimmed, remembering those photos and messages. The little girl asked fearfully, "Mommy, did Daddy leave because you and Beck were together? Does Daddy not want me anymore?" She was too heartbroken to speak. If she hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't have had to leave. Lennox held her daughter tight, hoarsely consoling her. "No. Daddy wouldn't be that cruel. We just made a mistake. As long as we find Daddy and apologize, he'll definitely come back." But despite the flood of phone calls, a week passed, and still no one could find any trace of me. Someone hesitantly said over the phone, "Ms. Whitmore, we still haven't found him anywhere." Despite the flood of phone calls, a week passed, and still no one could find any trace of me. Someone hesitantly said over the phone, "Ms. Whitmore, we still haven't found him anywhere." Could it be that something had happened? Lennox immediately hurled her phone against the wall. Her eyes bloodshot. Impossible. How could anything happen to Aaron, to my Aaron? She continued mobilizing more people to search for any trace of me. Summer had never been away from me this long. Every day the little girl cried, demanding to find Daddy. Lennox brought her to the secret room in the mansion, where all the memories between me and her were kept. From when we first met until now. From when I left. She wanted to open this secret room so many times. But each time she looked at those photographs, then looked at the house now empty of my presence. Her heart felt like it was being sliced with a knife. A week passed. Missing me consumed her entire mind. She had to find some comfort in those old happy memories. But when Lennox saw clearly, every photo with my part cut away, her face immediately went deathly pale. She frantically searched through all the photos, flipping through each one like a madwoman, muttering nonstop, "Impossible. How could there be none? How could all his images just disappear?" Summer picked up one photograph. The little girl remembered it was the family photo from last New Year's, when all three of us had posed together. But now only mother and daughter remained. My part had been cleanly cut away. The little girl immediately burst into sobs. "I want Daddy. Why isn't Daddy here anymore?" Lennox immediately called all the household staff, questioning each one about who had touched the photos in the secret room. One servant answered trembling, "Young miss, only you and the master can enter the secret room. We don't know the password, so we can't get in." "Oh, that's right, I just remembered. When the master was still here, I think I saw him carry something out from the secret room. Then he gathered it up and burned it in the garden. It's just that the master told us not to interfere, so we don't know what he burned." The servant's words struck like a blow straight to her heart. The next second, Lennox seemed to remember something. She ran straight to the study, to the safe where our marriage certificate was kept. She tremblingly entered the password, opened the safe, but inside was completely empty. Lennox let out a bitter laugh, tears falling drop by drop to the floor. In that moment, she finally understood how much I hated her. Hated her so much that not even a single photograph or marriage certificate was left behind. "Aaron, how could you be so cruel to me?" A terrible thought suddenly appeared in her mind. Would I forgive them? Would I ever agree to come back? A sudden chest-tearing pain struck. Lennox coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, then collapsed, losing consciousness. It had been exactly 1 month since I left this world. Lennox still hadn't found any news about me. She had someone restore all the photographs, then pasted them back in the secret room. Summer stopped going to school too, every day staying stubbornly in the secret room. At night when sleeping, the little girl had to hold my photo in her arms. Lennox expanded the search radius. She even posted missing person notices online, hoping someone who'd seen me would report back. But netizens didn't know. I'd left because of her betrayal. Oh my God, did something happen to Mr. Grant? Or was he kidnapped? I heard Ms. Whitmore is about to lose her mind. Such a rare couple, loving each other like that. I hope Ms. Whitmore finds Mr. Grant soon. Lennox constantly monitored the comments, afraid of missing any clue. But not a single person had seen me. The comments were all shades of regret and worry. No one knew the truth behind my disappearance. No one knew all this suffering originated from her. All were just praises for the love between me and my wife. If it were before, when Lennox saw news like this, she would have felt proud. But now, in her heart remained only endless guilt and even fear. Because she understood clearly. If not for that moment of impulse, her Aaron would never have left. The wave searching for me grew more intense. A post on Twitter immediately exploded across the internet. After Lennox fired Beckett Thorne, sure enough, as he'd said, in this city, he couldn't find any other work. No company dared hire him. He knew this was Lennox's way of forcing him to leave the city. But why? He'd been the one to seduce her initially. But if she couldn't control herself, how could I have succeeded? Ultimately, it was Lennox Whitmore's fault. That drove Aaron Grant away. Why should I alone bear the consequences? When he saw news about me spreading everywhere online, his bone-deep resentment immediately reached its peak, transforming into hatred. She was just some woman pretending to be devoted. What was there to worship about her? Since his own life was in ruins, she shouldn't expect to live peacefully either. He posted everything between himself and Lennox, detail by detail on the forum. Intimate photos taken when they went skiing. Lennox spending the night with him on their wedding anniversary, even including how Summer had called him daddy. The moment the topic was posted, it exploded across the internet. Whitmore Corporation CEO Lennox had an affair while married. Mr. Grant suspected to have left home. The trending searches were filled with keywords related to the Whitmore family. Before, netizens had thought my disappearance was due to some incident. But when Beckett Thorne's post was exposed, they realized it wasn't an incident at all. Clearly, Aaron Grant had discovered Lennox's affair. And that Summer was calling the other man daddy. So he left heartbroken. Lennox's pure love image collapsed. From a beloved national wife everyone admired, she became a despicable, unfaithful woman scorned by all. Damn it. I used to idolize their fairy tale romance. Turns out she just couldn't control herself. And she had the nerve to make such a show of looking for him. I think Aaron Grant's heart was truly shattered. He decided to have nothing to do with those two anymore. So he erased every trace before leaving it all behind. Tragically, under public pressure, Whitmore Corporation's stock plummeted. The entire company fell into chaos. Yet, the person who should have returned to Whitmore to manage the crisis, Lennox, was now completely unreachable. She sat in a bar, downing one glass of hard liquor after another. Only like this could she in her drunken dreams see once more me, the person who'd once loved her so deeply, a regular playboy at the bar. Seeing Lennox drinking alone in the corner, his eyes lit up. Before, whenever Lennox came to the bar, she'd never allowed other men to approach. She'd said if her husband found out, he'd be furious. Once, someone didn't believe Lennox truly wouldn't touch other men, so they specially called over a group of high-quality men for her to choose from. Lennox had exploded right there on the spot, cracking open Jard South's head. A contract about to be signed also went up in smoke. Since then, no one in the industry dared bring men near her. Everyone at the bar knew this rule of hers. No man dared approach her. But now the news about Lennox's affair with her male assistant was making noise everywhere, creating chaos all over social media. Everyone knew that Lennox, who'd once loved me like life itself, had long had another man behind the scenes. Faced with such a golden opportunity walking around, that playboy couldn't contain himself. He thought, if Lennox could sleep with her assistant, maybe she'd notice him too. He smoothed his hair, then walked over to sit beside Lennox. His voice suggestive as he called out, "Ms. Whitmore, why are you drinking alone? How about I keep you company tonight?" The implication in his words was crystal clear. This playboy had never lacked admirers. He confidently thought, even if he couldn't get her into bed tonight, at least he could exchange contact info with Lennox. But he never expected, before his hand could even touch her. Lennox shoved him away with obvious disgust. The playboy refused to give up, his body slowly leaning back in, pressing close to Lennox's ear to whisper, breathing out the smell of alcohol, "Ms. Whitmore. Your husband isn't here anyway. Isn't being alone so lonely? Why don't we spend one night together?" He had no idea. Those words hit Lennox's trigger point. She spun around, immediately wrapping both hands around his throat. "My husband will definitely come back. He will come back." The man just felt like he couldn't breathe, desperately striking at her hands. But Lennox's grip only tightened, until other people in the bar noticed, and ran over to restrain her before she'd let go. Lennox's face frost-cold, staring down at the ground, looking at the playboy gasping for breath. "Don't let me see your face again." The man hurriedly crawled away, fleeing. After leaving Lennox's line of sight, he cursed angrily under his breath. Don't know how many times she slept with that assistant, still putting on airs like some virtuous woman. Lennox, reeking of alcohol, returned to the secret room in the mansion. Looking up at the wall covered with evidence of past happiness, she dropped to her knees with a thud. "Aside from you, I'll stay away from every other man. Won't let anyone come near me. Can you please come back? I truly know I was wrong." The room echoed with choked sounds. Lennox, now like a lost child unable to find home, clutching our wedding photo tightly in her hands, tears endlessly streaming from the corners of her eyes, her mouth still muttering that she knew she was wrong. Too bad that belated repentance, no one could hear it. I, having returned to the real world, woke up in bed, pulled my phone from my pocket to check, and discovered time had returned to 6 years ago. I stood up and walked into the bathroom, looking at my noticeably younger face in the mirror. Only then did I realize I'd spent 10 years in the mission world, but only 4 years had passed in the real world. In other words, I was no longer the 29-year-old me, but the 23-year-old me. Looking around this strange yet familiar room made me feel like a lifetime had passed. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening pulled me from my memories. I opened the bedroom door, coming face to face with someone I hadn't seen in 10 years, my mother. She just returned from the market, heading to the kitchen, when the corner of her eye caught a figure standing in front of my bedroom door. Thinking there was a burglar, she was about to scream, when she realized how familiar that face was. The strength drained from her arms, fruit from her bag scattered across the floor. My mother's legs felt like lead, struggling to take one step at a time toward me, her trembling hands reaching up, her eyes already brimming with tears. "Aaron, is that you, Aaron?" My mother wanted to touch my face, but was afraid it was just her own hallucination, that it would vanish the moment she touched it. Since the day I disappeared, every day she'd held my photo and cried, every night hoping to see me in her dreams. Yet over those 4 years, she'd never dreamed of me once. This was the first time she'd seen my figure, though my appearance had changed a bit. She still recognized me at first glance. This was her precious child, Aaron Grant. And when I saw the silver streaking through my mother's hair, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. Hearing her cautious, careful questioning, I couldn't help but throw my arms around her, tears streaming down. "It's me, I've come home." Only after feeling my warm body did Mrs. Grant truly realize that her son Aaron had really returned. "Aaron, where have you been these 4 years? Do you know how hard your father and I searched for you?" Mother and son held each other, sobbing. She kept recounting those 4 years, how she and Dad had never given up searching for any trace of me, even though friends and even the police had advised them, saying I'd been missing so long something might have happened. But a mother's intuition told her she still believed her son was safe and sound. With just that faith, she and the entire Grant family had persevered for 4 years, never moving house, just afraid that one day I'd come back and not find them. And now finally, they'd waited for me, their Aaron. I had truly come home. A long while later, we both calmed down. My mother stroked my face, her eyes overflowing with heartache. "These 4 years must have been so hard on you, haven't they?" Those words made me, who just stopped crying, feel my eyes stinging again. I held my mother tight, tears flowing endlessly once more, repeating over and over, "Mom, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Now I regretted it utterly. My heart felt like it was being squeezed until I couldn't bear it. I couldn't understand why back then I'd been willing to abandon the parents who loved me so much, all for one woman, making them search for me for 4 whole years. If I could go back to the past, I definitely wouldn't hesitate to leave. On the other side, my father had just received word I'd returned, immediately dropped everything he was doing, and rushed home. The moment he walked through the door, he saw me and Mom sitting on the sofa in an embrace. My father, usually stern and quiet, couldn't help but redden his eyes too. In the end, I still chose to tell them everything about the 10 years I'd spent in that mission world, holding nothing back, because Mom and Dad were the only 2 people left in this world I could still trust. I picked up the glass of water on the table, wetting my throat, also giving my parents more time to digest the shocking truth. Yet after my parents went through the initial shock, all that remained in the end was heartache. They'd never imagined that in their memories, I was still that cheerful college student, carefree and unburdened. But now, I'd gotten married and had a child in another world. Even had to endure the pain of my wife and child's betrayal so cruelly. My father looked at his son, now grown and so much more composed. His tears fell once more. My Aaron has suffered far too much. I looked at my parents, their faces both wearing identical expressions of sympathy. My heart flooded with remorse and regret. It was all because I'd been blindly consumed by so-called love back then, making my parents live through 4 long agonizing years of pain. My father wiped his tears, gripping my hand tightly, asking what plans I had for the future. Before I vanished from this world, I'd been in college. After I'd been missing for a month, my mother had helped me file for a leave of absence. But I'd already completed 4 full years of college in that mission world, and had no intention of returning to lectures. Besides, though outwardly I was 23, I'd actually lived for 10 years. My psychological age was already 29. Being around college students would just feel awkward. I thought for a while, and decided to find a quiet town to rest and recover for some time. My failed marriage with Lennox had left lasting effects on my psyche. I needed time to adjust on my own. Though my parents were reluctant, they ultimately agreed. Remember to send us a message every day to let us know you're safe. They'd struggled so hard to finally have their son return. They couldn't bear to lose him again. I smiled and nodded, my eyes welling up with tears again. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. My parents patted my shoulder consolingly. You silly boy. As long as you've come back, that's enough. Let the past be the past. Over the following days, I stayed home keeping my parents company, while searching online for a suitable town. By the time I decided where I wanted to go, a week had passed. Before I left for the town, my parents had already helped me pack early. Inside the suitcase was stuffed full of food they'd made with their own hands. Worried I wouldn't be used to eating outside food. On the day of departure, my parents saw me off at the airport for a long time, until my flight was preparing for takeoff. Only then did they reluctantly wave goodbye. Riverside Town. I'd been staying in this small town for nearly a week. Before coming here, I'd rented a place online. After arriving, I spent nearly a week rearranging the house to my liking. The slow pace of life here had calmed my mood considerably. Right now was the season when lavender bloomed. Just opening the window, I could see an entire stretch of brilliant purple lavender. Where I lived was just a 10-minute walk to a lake. Every afternoon I'd stroll around the lake, watching the crimson sunset. Only beyond that sunset, I'd often see a little girl sitting on the swing. At first, I thought she was a tourist girl here with adults, so I didn't pay much attention. But every evening I saw that little girl in the same spot, without any adults nearby. On the 5th day, I hesitated for a long time. Finally couldn't help but crouch down beside the little girl, gently asking, "Sweetie, where are your parents?" The girl was about 4 years old, with a round little face, 2 small pigtails, looking absolutely adorable. Hearing my question, she looked up at me, then suddenly threw herself into my arms. "Daddy." Hearing that, I froze. "What did you just call me?" The little girl kept her face buried in my chest, calling out in a lisp, "Daddy." I was certain I only had Summer as my child. I couldn't possibly have another daughter anywhere. I figured the child had mistaken me for someone else. I was about to pick her up and take her to the police station to find her family, when a woman's voice called from behind, "Anna." The little girl immediately looked up, turning toward the newcomer and shouting, "Mommy, Daddy's back." When the woman saw my face clearly, she froze, looking at this unfamiliar face, trying hard to search through her memory, but still couldn't find any recollection. My memories of this world stopped 10 years ago. Even if we'd known each other before, 10 years without meeting, those old memories had faded beyond recognition. Seeing my confused expression, a flash of loneliness crossed her eyes. Then she proactively introduced herself. "I'm Grace Rivers. I was 2 years ahead of you in school. We were in the same club together, do you remember?" Dusty memories within me gradually came alive. The face of the woman before me overlapped with the face always wearing a gentle smile in my memories. "Grace, it's been so long. You have a child this big now." When I first entered college, I joined the debate club. Grace Rivers was the president. Though those memories had faded somewhat, I still remembered Grace always treated everyone very kindly, and it helped me out several times. Grace took Anna from my arms, explaining, "Anna is the daughter of my sister. My sister and brother-in-law passed away when she was very young. I adopted her after that, so she calls me Mom. The clothes you're wearing today are exactly like what my brother-in-law wore the day of the accident. That's why Anna mistook you for her dad. I'm really sorry." Only then did I understand the whole story. Anna, standing beside us, also heard Grace's words. Realizing she'd mistaken me for someone else, she lowered her head silently, saying nothing. Seeing Anna looking so full of sadness, my heart softened. Before I could think much, I blurted out, "Anna, if you want, you can call me Daddy too." The moment I finished speaking, I realized what I just said, hurriedly trying to clarify, rushing to explain. I didn't mean anything by it. And before I could finish, Anna pursed her lips, reaching her arms toward me. "Daddy, pick me up, Tilda." Anna was still small. Though she'd heard Grace say I wasn't her real father, she still couldn't help wanting to be close to me, wanting to call me Daddy. I quickly picked up the little girl, patting and soothing her. After Summer was born, I'd always been the one caring for her, so things like childcare came very naturally to me. In no time, I'd coaxed Anna to sleep. A flash of amazement crossed Grace's eyes. This was the first time Anna had been so affectionate with a stranger. After Anna fell asleep, I was afraid that if I handed her back, it would wake her up, so I proactively offered to carry Anna home. Only when we reached the door did I discover I lived right on the floor below them. I carefully laid Anna on the bed, tucking the blanket neatly around her. Then we both quietly left the room. Out on the balcony, this was the first time since returning to the real world I'd encountered someone I knew besides my parents. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Grace's eyes looked at me, filled with nostalgia. "Where did you go all those years ago?" My disappearance had been too sudden. Everyone at school only knew my parents had filed for a leave of absence. Then no one ever saw me again. But I couldn't possibly explain to Grace what had happened to me. I could only smile faintly, with a hint of guilt. Grace Rivers wasn't the type to interrogate endlessly. Everyone had their own secrets. She just needed to know that after 4 years, she could still see me again. That was enough. We started talking about Anna. I learned Grace was now a doctor. Her work so demanding, she often couldn't care for Anna properly. She once hired a nanny, but that first nanny had secretly mistreated Anna behind her back. After that incident, she didn't dare casually entrust Anna to anyone else anymore, left only with running back and forth between work and childcare. Though Anna was young, she was very understanding. After school, she'd sit on the swing waiting for Grace to pick her up. On weekends, she'd obediently stay home alone. My heart ached even more thinking of Summer. When she was just 4, I doted on her constantly, while Anna often had to stay home by herself. Grace saw the sympathy filling my expression, carefully speaking up. I have a rather sudden favor to ask. I can see Anna really likes you. I wonder if I could trouble you to help me care for her for a while. Grace knew her request was too abrupt. For a man, caring for a child wasn't simple. But she also didn't want Anna to remain lonely forever. Staying home alone like that. I thought of those tearful eyes. When Anna called me daddy, my heart melted. Without thinking much, I immediately agreed. Joy flashed through Grace's eyes. Thank you so much, Aaron. From that day on, Grace was responsible for taking Anna to school each morning. I handled pickup after school ended. Grace often had surgical shifts, getting off work very late. So I'd take Anna to the park to play on the slides, cook meals for her, tell her bedtime stories. On weekends when Grace had time off, the two of us would take Anna to the amusement park together. Anna grew closer and closer to me, in her heart already seeing me as her real father. That day I picked Anna up after school. Anna came running over and threw herself into my arms, looking up at me with sparkling eyes. Daddy, next week my school has a family field day. You and Mommy will come, right? Seeing Anna's expectant gaze, my heart melted completely. I patted her head. Of course. Mommy and Daddy will both participate with Anna. When Grace heard about the field day, she also said she'd definitely arrange the time. On field day, Anna held my hand, introducing me to each friend. This is my daddy. He's so handsome and he cooks amazing food. Grace watched the scene with mixed amusement, pretending to be jealous. Anna's never introduced Mommy to her friends before. Hearing that, Anna hugged my neck tight, her chubby face rubbing against my cheek. Everyone already knew you were my mommy. They just never saw Daddy before. Some friends even said Daddy didn't want me anymore. Now I have to show them. My daddy didn't abandon me. Such innocent words made both adults' hearts ache terribly. I kissed Anna's cheek gently. Daddy will always be by Anna's side. Grace looked at the two of us, her heart filled with an unprecedented sense of contentment. Throughout the field day, father and daughter coordinated perfectly, winning award after award. Anna cheered until her voice went hoarse, her face glowing with pride. After the field day ended, we took Anna to the zoo together. It was Anna's first time at the zoo, seeing so many animals. Her eyes were so excited she didn't know where to look first. Grace lifted Anna onto her shoulders, so she could see better. On the way home at sunset, Anna had nestled into Grace's arms, exhausted and fallen asleep. Grace insisted on seeing me all the way to my door. Just as we reached the entrance, Anna woke up. She rubbed her eyes sleepily, waving at me. Daddy, see you tomorrow. I smiled, pinching her cheek gently, about to speak, when I suddenly heard two familiar voices. Daddy. After a month of searching, Lennox still had nothing to show for it. Everyone around her advised she should give up. Even the long-retired Whitmore patriarch also advised her not to keep searching, because I'd been determined to leave. So naturally, I wouldn't leave any trace for her to find. The company currently stood on the brink of collapse. She should have returned to handle company matters. But Lennox refused to give up. She believed firmly she would find me. The Whitmore patriarch looked at his stubborn granddaughter, both furious and helpless. If she'd known she'd suffer like this someday, why did she do those things? That wronged me. The patriarch couldn't stand by and watch the company collapse, so he had to personally step in and take over operations. From then on, all of Lennox's energy went into searching for me. Even Summer went with her mother daily to look for Daddy. Whenever they heard of any trace of me, mother and daughter would immediately rush there. Yet throughout that entire month, it was only disappointment after disappointment. Lennox had never believed in gods or Buddha. But now, she'd taken Summer to every famous temple, prostrating step by step, just hoping to see me one more time. And finally that day, in both mother and daughter's minds, a mechanical voice simultaneously rang out. That robotic voice told them I'd never belonged to this world. Now I'd return to my own world. So naturally they could never find me. From the system's words, they learned I was a mission executor. But the mission had been completed 7 years ago. It was for Lennox that I'd chosen to stay. Their betrayal had made me completely despair, and decide to return to my original world. Learning all this made Lennox's heart ache even more. Her Aaron had given up everything to stay for her. Yet she'd failed me. Summer also understood she herself was one of the reasons I had to leave. Now all she wanted was to stand before Daddy, to apologize and beg for forgiveness. But we were no longer in the same world. How could they possibly find me? The system continued speaking. It could give mother and daughter one chance to come to my world for 24 hours. If within those 24 hours, they could convince me to return with them, then our family of 3 would be reunited. But if I refused to go back, they'd have to pay with their health for the rest of their lives. They had the right to choose whether to accept this opportunity. Both mother and daughter didn't hesitate to accept. Even if it cost them their health, they still wanted to gamble once. But Lennox and Summer never expected, after 2 months of finally seeing me again, it would be in a scene like this. Before seeing me, Lennox had always believed we'd loved each other for 10 years. And Summer was the child I'd poured all my love into raising. Though I might still be angry now, as long as they sincerely admitted their mistakes, I would definitely forgive them. Our family of 3 would surely return to how we were. But what Lennox never expected was, only 2 months had passed, and beside my Aaron stood another woman, holding a child they'd never met, looking no different from a happy family of 3. Her mind immediately went blank. Summer felt utterly wronged. The daddy she loved had only been gone 2 months. She and her mother had struggled so hard to find him. Yet now another child was calling me daddy. Summer, like a little firecracker, rushed straight toward me, wanting to throw herself into my arms. Daddy, I missed you so much. And I, having just escaped that initial shock, immediately shifted to avoid the little girl's embrace. How did you 2 find me here? Right at that moment, the system that had vanished for 2.5 years once again spoke. Host mission. The world is showing signs of collapse. After the system's explanation, I learned that after I left, Lennox had once again fallen into a closed-off state, even more severe than when her parents died. Aside from receiving news and going out to search for traces of me, she only locked herself in that secret room, ignoring everything at the company. The Whitmore patriarch himself had to step in to stabilize the situation. As for Summer, unable to bear the shock of her father disappearing, she cried daily, demanding to find Daddy, even going on hunger strikes to get attention. The world faced the danger of collapse. The system was forced to intervene, giving Lennox and Summer, mother and daughter, one chance to see me again. But only for 24 hours. The system told me I just needed within those 24 hours to make mother and daughter completely lose hope, to let them know I no longer loved them, and I wouldn't be coming back. After hearing the system's explanation, my heart only felt bitter. Their actions were clearly what caused me to leave. Yet after I left, they desperately searched for me. Come back here. Your daughter and I have been searching for you constantly. Lennox couldn't help but step forward, staring at me unblinking, as if afraid I'd vanish the very next second. Summer also looked at me with tears streaming down. At this moment, Grace immediately realized the relationship between us wasn't simple at all. Anna also woke up just then, hearing the older girl before her also calling me Daddy. Her heart suddenly felt uneasy. Daddy. Hearing that call once more, Summer couldn't contain her inner rage, shouting at Anna, "He's my daddy. Daddy can only be mine." I rubbed my temples helplessly, gently pinching Anna's cheek. Be good, Anna. Go home and sleep with mommy first, okay? Daddy has some things to handle. I gave Grace a reassuring look. Take Anna home to sleep for now. I'll handle things here. Though her heart was full of questions, Grace understood now wasn't the time to ask. So she nodded in agreement. She gently kissed Anna's cheek, saying softly, "Sleep well. See you tomorrow, sweetheart." But when I turned back to face Lennox and her daughter, my expression turned ice cold, my eyes completely devoid of any warmth. Summer hadn't seen me for 2 months, finally tracking me down, only to hear another child calling me Daddy, and discovering the father who'd once been so gentle with her had now become unusually cold, unable to bear the grievance any longer. The little girl burst into sobs. Daddy, don't you want me anymore? I'm your real daughter. In the past, whenever Summer cried, I'd rush over to hold and comfort her with heartache. But now, I just stood there silently watching Summer, those warm arms never appearing. When the little girl opened her eyes again, she discovered I was still standing in the same spot, looking at her coldly. Done crying yet? Do you understand how Daddy felt now? When you called Beckett Thorne Daddy. Since Summer was born, the love I'd given her was no less than what I'd given Lennox. When the little girl was sick, I kept vigil by her bedside day and night. Her first day of preschool, I'd secretly gone to the school gate to watch. When she had nightmares and couldn't sleep, I'd sit by her bedside, gently patting her back, singing lullabies to coax her to sleep. That's why when I learned Lennox had cheated, I still tried to console myself. At least I still had my daughter. My daughter wouldn't betray me. Like grasping at a final lifeline, I'd placed all my hope in her. But in the end, she still chose to betray me just like her mother. However much love I'd given, the pain multiplied when I learned the truth. Now Summer was filled with regret. Sobbing, Daddy, I was wrong. I shouldn't have called anyone else Daddy. Only you're my daddy. The little girl tried to act cute like before, but I coldly avoided that touch. In this world, nothing is more worthless than love that comes too late. Lennox looked at me, seeing how heartless I'd become toward the daughter I'd once adored. Her expression turned extremely difficult. My gaze finally settled once more on Lennox. 2 months without seeing her, Lennox was no longer the image of perfection down to every hair strand. Her face was haggard, dark circles prominent under her eyes. Lennox, why did you still come looking for me? Don't you already have Beckett Thorne? The first time I discovered Lennox's attitude toward Beckett had changed. I still didn't pay attention. After all, she and I had loved each other for 10 years. I thought I was probably just overthinking. But after I went through being deceived by her again and again, being abandoned by her again and again, then witnessing her intimacy with Beckett firsthand, the two even physically involved, I finally understood. That's why I decisively left that world. Yet now, she disregarded everything to find me in my world. It really was as the saying goes. Only after losing something do you learn to cherish it. When you have it, you treat it like dust on your clothes. Lennox hurriedly explained. I already fired Beckett. Lately I've been nearly losing my mind searching for you. Aaron, can we go home? The only person I've ever loved from start to finish is you. Looking at the two of them, one big, one small, so full of hope, I smiled mockingly, cruelly extinguishing their last ray of hope. Home, that place stopped being my home long ago. Lennox, stop lying to yourself. You stopped loving me ages ago. Lennox didn't understand. Since I left, she hadn't had a single peaceful night's sleep. Just to find me, even willing to trade her own health. How could Aaron think I don't love him? She looked at me, her eyes filled with endless pain. Aaron, how could I not love you? How could I possibly not love you? Hearing that, I laughed coldly, sneaking around to meet Beckett behind my back. You call that love? On my birthday, you two were skiing in Switzerland. You call that love? When the avalanche hit, the person you chose to save wasn't me, it was Beckett. You call that love? With every word I spoke, Lennox's face grew paler, each word like a sharp blade, stabbing deep into her chest, the blade showing no mercy. In that moment, Lennox hated herself immensely. If only she'd firmly rejected Beckett back then, none of what followed would have happened. Seeing her anguished expression, my heart didn't stir with even a hint of emotion. I know you two came here wanting to take me back. Lennox, Summer listened carefully. From the moment I left, there's no connection between us anymore. Hearing those heartless words, Lennox staggered back several steps, her eyes filled with despair. Aaron, can you truly not forgive us? Though Summer didn't fully understand the earlier words, she understood one final thing clearly, that her beloved father didn't want her anymore. Even so, the little girl wouldn't give up. Looking at me with pleading eyes, Dad, Mommy and I really know we were wrong. I shook my head, stop dreaming. And from now on, don't call me Daddy anymore. With that, I turned my back, slamming the door shut, blocking out the agonizing cries outside. The next day was Anna's birthday. Grace and I had planned half a month ago to take her to the aquarium. All three of us taking family photos together. Early that morning, Grace had brought Anna to wait for me at my door. After I finished preparing, the moment I opened the door, I received a kiss from Anna. "Good morning, Daddy." That sweet voice immediately swept away all of last night's troubles. I also kissed the little girl's forehead gently. "Good morning, Anna. Happy birthday, Daddy's little princess." I took Anna and held her in my arms. The three of us preparing to head to the aquarium. At the same time, Lennox and Summer had been huddled in the hallway all night. The system only gave them 24 hours. Yesterday morning they'd arrived in this world, but hadn't found me at home. They'd waited an entire day, finally meeting me, only to receive those cruel rejections. Now time was almost up. They'd have to return to their original world, just wanting to see me one last time. "Errands, Daddy." The moment I opened the door, I saw two figures huddled in the corner, but I didn't want to spare them even a glance. Though I heard their calls, I never turned my head. Last night I made it clear. We had nothing to do with each other anymore. Lennox's face went pale once more, her body trembling, barely able to stand. Though she knew time was running out, she still led Summer forward. "Aaron, even if you can't forgive us, Summer is still your daughter. We have to leave soon. Could you give her one hug?" Summer timidly tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, I really know I was wrong. Can I hug you one last time?" Grace stood nearby holding Anna, saying nothing. Just then Anna suddenly spoke. "Dad, is that girl really your daughter?" Hearing that question, Grace couldn't help but tighten her hold slightly. I thought for a moment. She used to be Daddy's daughter, but now Daddy only has Anna as his daughter. The words had barely left my lips when Summer immediately broke down sobbing. "Daddy, don't do this. I'm your daughter." Seeing the older girl crying so pitifully, Anna felt a bit uncomfortable. "Daddy, did she do something wrong, so you can't forgive her?" I smiled, gently pinching Anna's cheek. "Anna, when you grow up you'll understand. Some mistakes can never be forgiven." And those words were also the death sentence for Lennox and Summer. They would never be forgiven by me. In the end, I paid no more attention to their reactions. Taking Anna from Grace's arms, the three of us left together. "Daddy, don't leave me." Summer watched the father's retreating figure, reaching out and crying desperately. Lennox could only hold her daughter tight, tears falling silently. She never imagined that nightmare mother and daughter had once dreamed had now become the stark reality before them. I'd left them with another child calling me Daddy. No matter how they called, I never looked back. Regret crashed over them like massive waves. If only she'd decisively abandoned Beckett that day. If only she hadn't secretly taken their daughter to see him. If only she'd cut ties with Beckett sooner. Things wouldn't have come to this. But there are no what-ifs in this world. Time never turns back. All of today's consequences were the price for the seeds they'd sown. Outside the residential gate, I glanced at Grace. A bit curious. "Aren't you curious why I have a daughter that big?" Grace still wore that gentle smile. "Everyone has their own secrets. I'll wait until the day you're willing to tell me. Besides, I could see they are in the past now." Hearing that, I paused slightly, then smiled with relief. Everything related to those two I'd left behind me. Grace was right. Lennox and Summer were in the past. They wouldn't appear in this world again, nor exist in my life anymore. Just then Anna puffed out her chest proudly. "I have my own secret too." Both adults immediately laughed. "What secret does our Anna have?" "Mommy wants to know." "Daddy has to hear it too. You can't just tell Mommy Tilda." When my figure completely vanished from Lennox and Summer's sight, their forms also gradually faded, returning to their original world. Just as the system had said, they couldn't make me agree to return with them, so they'd have to pay with their health. From that point on, Lennox and Summer suffered from chronic illness. Summer couldn't last more than 5 years. In her final moments, as her vision dimmed, the little girl looked at her mother crying by the hospital bed, whispering, "Mommy, I really miss Daddy. I regret it so much." Lennox watched her daughter die right before her eyes. The last thread of sanity in her heart finally snapped. Lost her parents in childhood. Lost her husband and child in middle age. And all those losses were caused by her own hands. After cremating her daughter, she held the urn and threw herself into the deep sea. In those freezing ocean waters, Lennox seemed to see me after 10 years apart. Just like when she was 19. I smiled, reaching my hand toward her. The end.